how did NATO set itself up for internal disagreements? As it stands today, NATO is losing its united front against Russia, and the fate of the organization rests in the hands of Erdogan and his parliament in Ankara. After Russia's offensive in Ukraine, Sweden and Finland made a hasty decision to join NATO, only for their bid to be blocked by Turkey. In critical times, Erdogan is misusing NATO's policies to lift a long-held arms export ban. Experts call it the Turkish blackmail. Yet, it is NATO's very own charter that Turkey is weaponizing for its geopolitical gain. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into NATO's controversial Article 10 and how Turkey's complex position in the organization is making it weak. As Putin continues his fight in Ukraine, the geopolitics of Europe is changing drastically. Nordic states that had maintained their military neutrality in the past decided to change their stance altogether. In particular, Sweden and Finland let go of their neutrality status to join hands with the world's most powerful military alliance, the NATO. Both of the countries expressed their interest in the organization and expected their membership accession to be pretty easy. Well, that plan quickly went down the drain when Erdogan's Turkey decided to not vote for their bid. While the country has voted for Finland to join NATO, Sweden is still waiting to complete its accession. Believe it or not, it is actually NATO's internal obstacle that has given Turkey the ultimate power to decide Sweden's fate in war-ridden Europe. We'll get into why Erdogan is showing resistance against Sweden's bid in a second. But first, allow us to introduce Article 10, aka the internal obstacle within the NATO Charter. According to the article titled NATO's Enlargement, the organization has an open door policy, meaning all European allies are welcome to join the mission. But the catch is that every aspiring member's accession needs the consensus of all allies. So even if one existing member state votes no on a bid, that particular country is essentially blocked from joining NATO. This measure helps NATO to remain cohesive and united on critical matters, like extending membership and enforcing its rules on the allies. Yet, at the same time, it doesn't account for bilateral conflicts that exist within the organization. Now the problem is that pro-Sweden member states in NATO can't simply bypass Article 10 to blindside Erdogan, who is bargaining for a hard deal. After all, Turkey knows it's NATO's one of the most strategic and mighty partners. Turkey, as it stands today, has given a green signal to Sweden's bid. Yet the official ratification process is still slow and heavily politicized. At the same time, it has allowed Finland to finish their accession process. Why is that so? So let's get into it, shall we? The Turk-Swedish NATO crisis boils down to the Kurdish Workers' Party, or the PKK. If you've seen a series of terrorist attacks in Turkey in recent history, most of them are credited to the PKK, or at least that's what the Turkish government maintains. The PKK is a Kurdish Marxist separatist movement that aims to make a semi-autonomous state for the Kurds. Since the 1980s, PKK party members have been fighting the Turkish forces on the ground. The movement itself is based in the southeastern part of Turkey and some parts of northern Iraq. Now, Sweden isn't actively involved in this territorial and political crisis. However, Erdogan's administration claims that the Swedish government gives stay in visas to the PKK workers. It doesn't seem like a big issue until you realize that the PKK has been declared a terrorist organization by Turkey, the US, Canada, Australia, and some parts of the European Union. In fact, Sweden was one of the first countries to call the PKK a terrorist group. Now, the Nordic state maintains that it only gives visas to Kurds who aren't associated with the PKK. Finland also has a similar foreign policy. Even though it has a much smaller Kurdish population than Sweden and also designates PKK as a terrorist group, it issues visas to the Kurd population. And Turkey isn't happy with that at all. But as usual, the issue runs deeper than what seems to be the obvious. Let's dig in. We already know that Sweden decided to acquire NATO membership to mitigate any threat from Putin's warmongering tendencies. Interestingly, it is not difficult to draw parallels between Turkey and Sweden's accession to NATO. Turkey decided to acquire the membership when the Soviet Union started to gain momentum during the Cold War. Basically, Turkey wanted to achieve two things by getting the NATO stamp. Number one, it wanted a security guarantee just in case the Soviet Union decided to invade the country. And second, it wanted to reinforce its Western or European identity in front of major stakeholders such as France, Germany, and the UK. So, when Sweden also sought protection from Russia, it expected Turkey to sympathize with their complicated position. We all know what happened next. Turkey has already expressed its grievances against Finland and Sweden, but it also wants the duo to take an extra step and to publicly disavow PKK and their workers. That's not the end, though. Erdogan also wants Sweden to extradite a group of Kurds who have been charged with terrorism in Turkey. That's easier than done, but even those hefty demands are only part of the story. Experts believe that Turkey's resentment against Finland and Sweden is more about the 2019 weapon ban than harboring PKK workers. And this is exactly where NATO's role is challenged and questioned. Do you enjoy simple breakdowns of complex geopolitical issues? Give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Back in 2019, President Donald Trump had withdrawn US troops from Syria, who were backing the Kurdish group in their fight against the Islamic State. Turkey saw this political fiasco as a golden opportunity to launch a brutal offensive against the Kurdish YPG militia in Syria. Since the group didn't have any protection from US troops, they were left to fend for themselves. Many major NATO states like France, Germany, and the US had warned Turkey against the attack. And when Erdogan followed suit, many EU countries, including Sweden and Finland, banned all arms exports to Turkey. Despite a major loss in weaponry and arms aid, Turkey wasn't deterred from attacking the Kurdish militia. A major part of the arms export ban still is in action. It is not difficult to see the cracks within NATO and their lack of unity on important matters of security. Since there are a lot of differences in the security policies of the member states and who they consider a threat, NATO is struggling to put up a collective front. If anything, experts believe that Turkey has been using Article 10 to its advantage. Of course, Erdogan wants the EU to uplift the arms export ban in exchange for allowing Sweden to find a place in NATO, and the European states might even agree to Erdogan's demands. Here's why. NATO's unity is uniquely critical today. After all, their single greatest enemy, Russia, has entrenched Europe in a bloody war. Since February 2022, the Biden administration has been trying to show a collective front against Moscow, and its single most powerful alliance is NATO, which has a bigger, more sophisticated military budget and access than Putin's imagination. As soon as Russian forces entered Ukraine, the US made sure to make Russia enemy number one for NATO member states. However, not every member is as enthusiastic as the others to show Moscow their military might. Turkey happens to be one of those few states. Other NATO countries understand that Sweden's military advancement will add to their collective combat power. Yet Erdogan seems more interested in achieving individual goals. It is not a surprise that Turkey has demanded for the US to seal their controversial F-16 deal for it, to ratify Sweden's bid to join NATO. It has been a long time coming now. For years, Turkey has urged the US to sell their sophisticated F-16 jets and related technology as a security measure. This $20 billion deal has seen delays due to the lack of congressional approval. On the other hand, Ankara is desperate for the deal to go through because of the growing resentment on the Russian front. It isn't surprising that Moscow has threatened to react if Sweden and Finland make it to NATO. And when Turkey's critical vote becomes the decisive factor, it is clear that Putin won't be happy with Erdogan. But the Turkish president does what he does best: use his strategic geographical position in NATO to get what he wants. As the Biden administration moves forward to make the F-16 sale to Turkey, only then the parliament in Ankara will decide Sweden's future in NATO. Even though the US wants to treat the F-16 deal and Sweden's accession as two distinct events, Erdogan is persistent. At the given time, Biden must present NATO as a cohesive front against Moscow. But the truth is that the military alliance is showing its internal cracks. Its enlargement will be decided by a critical vote in the Turkish parliament in October 2023. Found this video interesting? Give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to watch more videos on galvanizing geopolitics.